Hey, it's 9:10 here in St. Louis, and if you're listening to us on the radio, you can also watch us on the radio, stltoday.com with our partnership with the Post, also at ktrs.com. And don't forget, we are on with KPLR Channel 11. That's Channel 187 on your Charter Communications system. Our guest for the next couple of minutes is our senator from the great state of Missouri. She has a brand new book out called Plenty Ladylike. She's going to be at the St. Louis County Library at 7 o'clock for a book signing and a book reading. Welcome back to the show, Senator Claire McCaskill.
Thanks, McGraw. Great to be with you.
If you can, so thank you very much for joining us, and thanks for putting up with us with the Skype. So your book, Plenty Ladylike, is a rare glimpse at what it's like to run a campaign. First, why did you decide to write the book, and why did you decide to be so forthcoming with your very unique strategy to beat Todd Akin in the last election?
Well, what I'm trying to do is encourage young women to be strategic and embrace the notion that being really ambitious and strategic and having an opinion and being outspoken, that all of those things are ladylike and important. And I thought it was going to be phony if I tried to do one of those sweet memoirs that only hit the high points. So there's a lot of ugly in this book, and there's a lot of real in this book. And I hope, not only I hope that as it makes the book entertaining, it will give young women some focus about how they can get ahead in the world.
You also released a couple of photos of after Todd Akin won his primary, and we'll get to that strategy in a second. You were so thrilled. You shotgunned a beer for the first time. Now, was that really the first time you shotgunned a beer?
I'd never even heard of it. That's how old I am. My daughters were on the campaign trail with me that summer, Maddie and Lily, and they told me they knew what I was doing. They were listening and watching as we were devising this strategy, and they knew it was high risk. And they said, "Mom, if you pull this off and he wins the primary, you got to shotgun a beer with us." I said, "I have no idea what it is, but believe me, if we pull this off, I will shotgun a beer."
And so there's the story now detailed in your new book, Plenty Ladylike. Okay, unconventional strategy with Todd Akin. Who came up with the idea to run commercials calling Todd Akin so conservative he's bad for Missouri, in essence rallying the Republican base to vote for him? Whose strategy was that?
Well, it was we started talking about how we wanted Todd Akin to win, and we were all aware that he didn't have enough money. John Bruner was spending $7 million of his own money, and Sarah Steelman had more money, but Todd was really limping along. And so it was really my team. We talked it through, and I said, why don't we do an ad and put in the ad how conservative he is, because that's going to really excite the Republican base. And we polled, and we were right, that the Republican base loved some of Todd Akin's really extreme stuff. So it was a twofer. The independent voters began to see how extreme he was, and the very conservative base that votes in a primary saw a guy they liked. And so it worked really well. We did it all up front. I'm paid for by Claire McCaskill. I approve this message. There was no hiding behind the curtain, no third-party committees. It was transparent. It was really bold. It was high risk. And we're talking about it now because it worked.
Okay. Did it really work, or are you just taking credit for it working?
Well, I know where he was in the polls when we started polling in the Republican primary, and he was behind John Bruner. All the public polls had him trailing, and we watched him move up in the polls as we ran these ads. And so, no, I mean, I can't prove that's what did it, but we spent more money on those ads than he had spent in his entire primary.
He wins, and then you start the general election. Now, his legitimate rape comment, you couldn't pull that off with all the money and all the ads.
No.
Without that comment to Charles Jaco on that Sunday morning, Could you have beaten Todd Akin straight up without that?
I was confident that we could because of so many things he'd said in the past. Now, I admit he exceeded our expectations when he said legitimate rape and talked about what we call in the book, the chapter called the magic uterus. It definitely exceeded our expectations. But he had said things like that we needed to get rid of Medicare, we needed to get rid of Social Security, that college loans were the third degree of cancer of socialism. I mean, he really did have extreme views, wanted to do away with the school lunch program. So there was a lot of material to work with, even if he had not said legitimate rape.
Did the White House acknowledge or talk to you or praise you or say anything to you while you were conducting this strategy?
No.
Nothing?
No.
They didn't say, hey, good job, we're watching you from afar.
No, they were busy.
They were busy. They're
they were
busy with their own.
I did reach out to them because they wanted to play off Akin's comment immediately. I did reach out to Axelrod and say, David, lay off of Todd Akin for a few days because I want to get him past the point where he can resign off the ballot. It was one of those things we got what we wanted, and then all of a sudden everybody was trying to get him to resign, to drop off the ballot, and I was worried about keeping him on the ballot. So I did ask the White House to lay off of him for a few days till we got past that deadline.
Were there any Republicans when you were having this strategy? Any Republicans call you up and say, "We have to tip our cap to you, Senator. It's a brilliant strategy, even though you are ruining our party from within"?
No, I didn't hear it from any Republicans. Now, after the fact, I did, and I've since heard from a number of them about complimentary of what we did, but not at the time.
Yeah, it was diabolical, Senator.
Is that where I say thank you?
Yes, I guess so. You're going to be at the St. Louis County Library Saturday night at 7 o'clock. One more question about this, and then I want to get to some of the other things in the book, but this is so fascinating. Tell the story about the Mike Huckabee ad just a few days before the Republican primary.
Well, we were watching how he was doing, and of course we saw that the Mike Huckabee ad was good. And it was obvious it was good. Frankly, you didn't need to look at polling, just generally speaking. Huckabee was talking about the things that we included in the ad: faith and family, very conservative values. We know how popular Huckabee was because he'd done so well in Missouri in terms of his own campaign. So we knew he was really popular with Republican primary voters. Well, they took that ad down and put up a really weird ad about flames of fire, and it was just convoluted. And frankly, it was more common sense than polling that told us that this was not a good switch for them. So I made an effort to reach out to consultants, and consultants talk to consultants all the time, and said, hey, get a word to the Akin campaign that they should put that Huckabee ad back up. So somebody from the Akin campaign actually called our campaign, and in broad general terms, our campaign talked to him and said, "Yeah, we kind of think." We just gave him advice.
Well, but it wasn't just that. You let some Akin advisors talk to your pollsters. But the pollster, it was interesting because the conversation between the pollster and the Akin camp was in broad general terms, and I think the Akin camp told us more about their polling than we ever revealed about our polling. Have you spoken to Congressman Akin since all of this?
I haven't. Well, I talked to him after the election was over, obviously, and he was he was a gentleman and said congratulations, and I certainly complimented him on his principled, deeply held beliefs that dictated his positions on issues, and so it was. But I haven't talked to him since then.
Yeah, the book is called Plenty Ladylike, and it is a good read. It's a page turner. Saturday at 7 p.m., St. Louis County Library. Senator McCaskill will be there signing the book and giving a speech. You said you wrote the book to teach young women, old women, women of all kinds that it's okay to be strategic, to be smart, and still be a lady. I know you're watching what's going on here in Missouri and in Jefferson City with all the things going on recently with the rape kits not being tested and liaisons with the governor's office and all of that. What are your thoughts now? You read the book Plenty Ladylike, and it sounds like, Senator, there hasn't a lot have changed since when you were in Jefferson City and now.
Well, I am depressed that young women are being treated the way that they have been treated. I'm very proud. One of the young ladies reached out to me, and I talked to her, told her how proud I was of her because of their willingness to come forward. A couple of politicians lost their careers, and that's going to be a great deterrent effect on men behaving badly in Jefferson City. I look back on it, and I told her, I'm not sure I handled it right. I talk about in the book some of the conduct that I was subjected to, but I just tried to work around it and strategize around it, and it made me work harder and I think smarter because I was treated that way, but I didn't confront it, and these young ladies did, and I think they're making a difference, and I sure want to help going forward. We're going to try to get some resources in place for young women in Jefferson City where they can call and get good advice as they make a decision about whether or not to confront sexual harassment.
How come we the public, the rest of us, don't hear of the cesspool that is Jefferson City? You talk to people in the know, and they'll tell you what's going on, but generally, you don't hear about this. You would think that if the place of government where we elect these family value candidates, we would hear more of this and it would be rooted out. How come we only hear bits and pieces of it, and you have to write a book like this to sort of get this story out, that it's such a cesspool in these places?
I think the main reason is that it's a bubble down there. It's like an insular world, and the elected officials possess power. And so people don't expose them because they're powerful. The lobbyists don't want to expose them. The lobbyists are the ones that are buying all the drinks. I mean, Missouri is the only state in the union, McGraw, that has unlimited gifts from lobbyists, unlimited contributions from lobbyists. We're the only state that does that. No wonder Jeff City is the Wild Wild West. If we don't get serious about campaign and ethics reform in Missouri, we'll have more of this ridiculous behavior, not less.
But wasn't it just as bad even when there were campaign limits?
Well, I'm not saying that campaign limits alone make a difference, but I'm saying that having power residing in a few people, especially a few rich people that are trying to fund most of Missouri's government at this point, having unlimited parties and liquor, all of that contributes to it. And that was a problem when I was down there. It was the same rules when I was down there. There was way too much liquor, way too much partying, quote unquote, as opposed to legislating.
Is Washington, D.C. any better?
We can't take anything from lobbyists. I can't even take a lunch from a lobbyist. So it's an absolute prohibition on anything. And so that's not a problem in Washington. And frankly, if there are parties in Washington, I do not know about them. And frankly, I'm usually too tired to go.
This from the woman who released her shotgunning a beer. No, but in terms of sexual harassment and being a woman and having a seat at the boys' table with all of the power, is it any better in Washington than it is in Jefferson City? Much better.
The 20 women that have gotten to the United States Senate, all of us have had very similar experiences, and we're all tough. And everybody knows what they're doing, and there is respect from our colleagues. We are treated as equals, and frankly, I think when the 20 of us get together, we're such a formidable force. The guys are kind of afraid of us.
But isn't it true though that not just recently they had to put a woman's room in the Senate offices, right? Because there wasn't a woman's bathroom.
There was a woman's bathroom. It just wasn't big enough anymore.
Gotcha.
So there were only 2 stalls, and there are 20 of us, and it's the only bathroom near the floor. So we had to kind of put our high-heeled feet down and say, we've got to have more room in our bathroom, and it was expanded.
Senator Claire McCaskill is the reason why you don't have to turn off your iPad or your iPhone when you leave from airports anymore, because you helped shepherd through that, and we thank you for that. And if that's your legacy, that is a fine legacy, Senator. Senator.
Thank you.
St. Louis County Library, 7 o'clock Saturday night. Are you going to run for a third term?
It's my intention to run for a third term. I think I've got a third term in me. I'm getting a lot done. I'm part of the middle that is negotiating compromise. I think Missourians like someone who's willing to compromise. Not the people who yell and scream on the two ends of the spectrum, but the people who decide statewide elections. So I fully intend to run again in 2018.
Are you planning on filing for Todd Akin and have him run as well?
Well, we could only hope.
Last question for you, Senator. Nothing to do with the book, Plenty Ladylike, and that is the Iran deal. You said you're on the fence. 36 generals and military observers and experts have come out in favor of this deal. What are you waiting for, and what's going to sway you one way or the other on this Iran deal?
Well, what I'm doing, there's a lot of talk about how if we do this deal, $150 billion is going to go to Iran. I've already learned that it's not $150 billion, it's $60 billion. I've also learned that we don't hold the money. So what I'm doing is I'm calling the countries that have that money, and I'm asking them point blank, if we walk away from this deal, will you continue to respect the sanctions regime and keep that money away from Iran? And I haven't talked to all of them yet. These are countries primarily that are not in the deal: Turkey, South Korea, Japan, India, and China. I have talked to Japan and China, and I have not yet been reassured that they will continue to keep that money away from Iran. That's going to make a big difference to me, because if they're going to get this money anyway, I sure as heck would rather have them get the money with cement down their centrifuges.
How much of a shock it was that Charles Schumer came out and said that he was going to vote against this deal?
It wasn't a shock. Chuck is very close to many in the Jewish community that feel very strongly against this deal. I think he sees himself as not just a senator from New York, but sees himself as an important role as in terms of protecting Israel. But many of us are not sure that this is the best way to protect Israel. The rest of the world, with the exception of Bibi Netanyahu and Israel, believes this is the best way to protect Israel. So I think everybody's going to make their own decision. Chuck is not going to be influential on other Democrats.
That is Senator Claire McCaskill. Her new book, Plenty Ladylike, getting a lot of attention for its candid conversation about many things, including the bizarre and strange election with Todd Akin this last election cycle. She'll be at St. Louis County Library, 7 o'clock for a book signing and a book reading. You're always welcome here, Senator. Good luck with the book, and thanks for checking in.
Thanks, McGraw.
You got it. Have a good day.
Weekend.
9:28 here, Big 550 KTRS.